Back to the curve. It looks like Indonesia's volcano erupted again. I think the last time it erupted, there was a massive tsunami, and this looks like it was a massive eruption here. Now, whether or not it was the same kind of eruption or it collapses like it did before is still unknown at this point. But another article about the same time did make mention of the other things that are going on, including new cases of Ebola. But unfortunately, to our misfortune, Ebola probably won't be an issue with us at this point because flights are shut down. People just won't come in too easily from other countries. Borders are going to be a little bit more constrained. Obviously, illegal travel. I've mentioned that before, illegal smuggling of people. That doesn't always slow down, and that can still happen. But funds, I'm sure, all around the world are starting to get a little bit tight. Now, I mentioned this before with regards to the Keeling Curve and it steadying off. The first time in history that it's actually the same as it was almost last year. And I actually plan on seeing a decrease of CO2 as the months go on, just because industry is just not going to go back the way it was. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen here. And I wonder if the world nations knew that if they cut off the industry, that this would happen, that they would have to expect some sort of pushback from the earth. Now, there's an interesting connection I made this with regards to magma and pressures. And I did a little bit of research and I was hoping to share that with you now and actually put it as a historical footnote, note to self. I wonder if this is what's going to happen. So you see here, this is a period of time of like 1 month, it looks like. It's generally the same. It actually started to go down, the parts per million there, around the 19th of, let's see, what is this? 19th of March. It's definitely a decrease in activity, industrial activity there. And it looks like it was starting to drop right then and there. Now, I've seen other reports of individuals talking about erratic weather already happening. And just 2 days ago it was 70, and then the next day it was hailing, and it felt like somebody turned the air conditioner on. I mean, it literally dropped to that cold of weather. It was 70-some degrees, beautiful weather, and the next day it was freezing. The day after that, it was snowing. So does this have a direct effect? I don't know. I can't empirically say at this point. This is definitely going to be a new science to try to look at and study, because there's never been such a dramatic change in CO2 pressures, which directly affects heat. Now, you have to understand there are pressures besides that. There are ice pressures, there's population pressures, but this one is a very interesting one because it's a thing that changes season to season with regards to CO2 uptake, with regards to vegetation taking up the CO2 and decreasing that. And I've definitely put the question on how much does that affect the earth when those pressures are released and increased. So this is what it looks like here. We got the center peak of last year, and it's almost exactly the same as the far right, which is the peak of this year. And really, that's historically profound. I mean, from the data perspective, it's amazing. A lot of people that believe in stopping industry or slowing CO2 production, I don't know if they knew it was asked, but they were asking for if they knew that this would happen so quickly. And I would kind of bring into question whether or not CO2 drop off and pandemics and who knows, all this other stuff that may happen in the future doesn't happen all at once with some sort of cycle that we just can't conceptualize because we haven't been around for 400,000 years with regards to written history. So there's that. It's going all the way up and then it flattens out. This is since it was recorded in 1958. I shared that with you before in the last video. And then this is the relationship I wanted to discuss real quick with regards to the Earth mantle. And it says here the Earth's mantle can melt by three methods: adding heat to the mantle, changing its composition, or decreasing its pressure. Now, worldwide, the pressures are decreasing. So the observations that are being generated, the data that's being generated at Mauna Loa Observatory is not just that one location. It would be pretty much stable, or it'd be a sample that would be pretty much about the same across the entire world, across the surface of the world, the entire Earth. So we do see here, it says quite simply, decreasing its pressure is one of the ways that you can decrease its melting point. It says the Earth's mantle can melt by three methods. and there's a quick depiction of what they suggest is going on. Now we've never been inside the inner core to know this for certain, but science has been studying this for some time, and they think they got it figured out. Of course, we don't. So this is just as much as a hypothesis as the idea of how the Earth's core works. But like I said, we're going to see what happens in May, because that is going to be the drastic decrease in CO2 here. And it says the most common method of making basaltic magma is by decreasing the pressure of molten rocks. Okay, decreasing the pressure of the molten rocks. All right, so it says mantle rocks are extremely hot, and the only reason these do not melt is that they are being held at high pressures within the Earth. When these rocks ascend towards the surface, the pressures decrease and allows the rocks to begin melting. Okay, so now we understand the cycle, the simple cycle that they're depicting here. And again, you add to that factor that I think personally that these CO2 pressures are going to be drastically decreasing over the next months, maybe even years, as industry probably won't go back to the point it was right away. I hope it does go back up to a sustainable point. But if that's the case, though, the Earth, how long will be the lag time for the Earth catching up? That means less pressures on the surface, less pressures on the lithosphere, less pressures on the, and I don't know how to say that, antennosphere, mantle, outer core, inner core. And you are having a volcanic eruption right now, which is not completely unusual. But will they happen in an unusual amount? That's the question. So just some more information for you. At this point, it's all hypothesis. Again, we are here at a historical point in data that we've never seen before. And this is going to be an interesting turn for the industrial age. Thanks for joining me on the curve.